Lions in action, heart and more, changing lives from shore to shore.
Welcome to Behind the Roar, where we go beyond the titles, beyond the meetings, and into the real stories of service and leadership that make Lions truly impactful. I'm your host, Lion Zach Wosmek.
Come on in, we're service stars behind the roar, behind the roar, where leaders rise and hearts explode behind the roar, behind the roar.
So today we're going to hear from somebody who is truly helped shape what Lions looks like now today. With over 30 years of service, a founding force behind Lions Virtual, a leader at the international level, a mentor, a builder, and someone who has personally impacted me in my journey in such a big way. But beyond that, she's really known as a mom, a grandma, and someone who leads with heart in everything that she does. So today we're going beyond the titles, as we always do, and getting to know the person behind it all. We're getting to know Lion Jodi Burmester. Jodi, we're so happy to have you on Behind the Roar.
I was so honored when you reached out to ask me to do this. It's so cool to see you growing and seeing everything. And now I'm going to cry because this is really personal for me. Watching you in the last year or so that I've known you go from where you were to where you are has been such a cool experience. And I'm so proud of everything you do. You know,
Thank you.
Like every human, there's ups and downs and ins and outs, and you continue on the path of what I would call right, looking to give the most opportunities and give the most meet the needs of the current members of your district and beyond, and then also look beyond to how we can make things better for the future. And thank you for all of that, and for letting me come hang out with you and cry for you right off the bat.
Honestly, it'll come from me. Like as I was putting this together, because I curated a lot of these questions, and I'm reading them, like I'm trying to plan them out and say them myself, and I'm like it just. And one, I got to tell you, it's the worst thing for me now as I sit and watch the camera of myself, and having shaved, I hate this right here is the bane of.
So just as a record, as a human who's never really been fond of looking myself in a mirror, I will tell you that, first of all, I've had bad haircuts, and it all grows back, as we talked about
Same.
before. But the second thing
It doesn't always.
There you go. I actually just had to get over the fact that my voice sounds like it sounds, because I hate my voice, and I do not care for the way I look. So these are all things and now my nose is bright red because I was crying. You know, I finally, because of all the virtual things I've done, I just got over it. I don't even look at myself usually. And I lied. I put my makeup on before a call on the screen so I can see what I'm going to look like, so it doesn't look like clown makeup. And beyond that, it is what it is. It's who I am, and it's there you go.
Great.
And by the
I
way,
love
for
it.
those of you who've seen me online, especially when I was sitting next to Dale, my husband, I am like 5'9" and not a short human, but because I would sit next to Dale, who's very long waisted. Everyone, I meet them in person for the first time, and they're like, "You're so tall," and I'm like, where is that coming from? And then I finally looked at an old recording of the Burmester virtual bar. I'm like, oh my God, I'm really short-waisted. Dale's like this much taller than me on every one of these calls. No wonder they think I'm tiny. I am not a petite, small human. I'm a very not small human. I'll just put it that way.
I love it. That's the best. But I do, before we talk about everything that you do, because Jodi, you do so much stuff. We constantly talk about how busy you are in it, but it's something that you can definitely see is very important to you, and all of it means something. I want to start about what matters most. That's your family. So tell me just a little bit about Jodi's family.
So I grew up in a small town in Wisconsin, a suburb of Madison, Wisconsin, and I spent the majority of my life there up until just recently, as a matter of fact, relatively recently. And I have three other siblings that are still living. My parents have both passed. And I was blessed to be able to be influenced by some very strong women in my life. And growing up, my grandmother, who, here we go, here goes the tears again. But, when I look back at the gifts that I received as a child by these strong women, especially I was born in 1965. So I grew up in a generation where women, it was, not every woman had that opportunity or that gift of powerful women who were out there doing good and making a difference. Or a father who happened to be 31 years older than my mother and had been through a lot as well. So I come from a very unique family background as far as that goes. And I learned a lot from it. I learned, number one, that respect is given to start with, but it's easy to lose it. And that just because you're older than me doesn't mean you're going to, the respect, you get the same level everyone else gets to start with. And then if you do things to break that trust and that respect, then that's on you.
Mhm.
So that was where it all started. But then Dale and I met in college, believe it or not, at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Go Badgers. And, I am not an introvert. I know this is shocking to anyone who knows me, but Dale is an engineer. And he's one of those humans that was born as an engineer and has been doing that all his life. And so he was a lot more introverted. And we happened to be out on a Thursday night, which in a college town like Madison is called Thirsty Thursday. And my friend and I were on our way out, and he was coming out of a local watering hole, we'll call it, and had a few beers. And he was with a group that my friend and I knew some of the people, and that's how we met. And we've been married for almost 40 years now. We have two beautiful daughters who both live in Minneapolis. Our older daughter, Leah, is married to Brandon, our favorite son-in-law. There's two grandchildren that made me Yaya, which Zach, you know how much Yaya time I take every week. I take 2 days out of my week and I watch now just our granddaughter because our grandson's in Montessori school. And then our daughter, Erin. Erin and Leah bought houses one apart. And so they're on the same street, just one house in between them in the north side of Minneapolis. And Erin and her girlfriend, Sylvie, are amazing humans that
Awesome.
I could brag about my kids forever. We then, because of when the kids were just up there, and they've been up there for about a decade, we were fine with seeing each other every 6 or 8 weeks. But then these little grandchildren came along, and that changed everything. So we sold our Madison house, which we'd lived in for 35 years at that point. And we are renting an apartment just 7 minutes away from them in Minneapolis area. And we spend the rest of our time here on Lake Wisconsin at the cottage. So we're figuring out at this old age of our life, 60 and 60 plus years of age, how to rethink everything, which was so cool, by the way. If you've lived in a space for a long time, you know how much stuff you accumulate. 35 years in one house is a lot of stuff. And once we went through that process of getting rid of everything, it really helps us look at the world differently. We as Americans have too much stuff, and we are a consumer-based economy and society. And now I'm like, do I really need that? No, I still got that. Or what can I do for this, that, or the other thing? And people try to give me things now. I'm like, thank you very much. But no, I don't have space for it. I live in an apartment in a small cottage now. I don't have all the, anyway. So bottom line is, from a personal standpoint, my family is the most important thing.
It's amazing.
And I get my energy from them. I get everything from them. And all the support they've given me over the years with all the crazy things this mom/Yaya does, and Dale being my arm candy and taking care of all my stuff when we're out and about. It's like when Dale's not with me, I'm like, oh my God, I have to find my own stuff again. I have to undo my own laptop. I have to set up my own stuff. I got to, it's a huge shock to my system because he does such a good job with it.
That's incredible. I love that. And it's exciting because that's like one of the things I had in there, but you did kind of touch on it a little bit, but you see that especially on your face when you talk about your grandkids, you light up. So what does it mean for you as far as becoming a grandma? Like what has changed for you?
Well, so first of all, we didn't think we were going to have any grandchildren because Leah and Brandon said never, never, never. And Erin and Sylvie are still having conversations, but Erin is a child that can't even stand a shot still to this day, freaks her out. An immunization shot. So she's never been someone that was going to go down that path regardless of who she is or regardless of anything else. So what it meant was this. First of all, it was such a shock and such an incredible gift. I found out about this actually when Daniel Marnie and Alkins and I were in India at the Same Forum a few years ago. I did a call on Christmas Eve morning at 4:00 their time, and everyone else was here, and they told us they were pregnant with our first grandchild. And I'm going to cry again. It was I'm sitting on a bench outside of the hotel and getting ready to go to do a strides walk and finding out I'm going to be a grandma for the first time. And that was just amazing. And then Paxton is born, and that changed everything. Like I said, every 6 or 8 weeks was one thing, but he was born in August. I spent um every week I was driving up from Madison to Minneapolis and commuting. I'd have 8-hour commute, twice a week, 4.5 hours or 9 hours, whatever it was, and staying with them. And then then they got pregnant with Haley. So Paxton's will be 3 in August, and Haley will be a year old in just a couple weeks here. And so
Amazing.
when both come into our world, and we do everything we can to keep them overnight once a week, we wanted to be part of their lives like my grandparents were part of mine, and have that influence and have that tight relationship with them. So we're living the dream, very honestly. I mean, this wasn't our dream. This was not our plan in any way, shape, or form. We were thankful that the kids both were in Minneapolis, and they're only a little over 4 hours away, all of those things. But the world changes, and our plans have to change with that. And you have to look for those opportunities and grab onto them and embrace them.
Incredible.
Did I ever think I'd live in Minneapolis? Heck no. It's a beautiful place to live. I love it up there, but it definitely was not the original plan. So we're reverse snowbirds, we call it, because we go from the Madison climate, which is what it is. It's a little snowy, a little cold at times, a little hot and humid in the summer, to even colder a lot of the time, and even more snow up in Minneapolis. But it's all very, very worth it.
We love it. That's amazing. It's really cool, and it's amazing how much of who we are, especially when it comes to becoming a lion and doing the service work that we do, really starts at home and with family. And so it's so cool to see that.
It does. And Zach, that's just to build off of what you just said. I've been a lion for over 30 years. I actually had our older daughter, Leah, was only a couple years old when I joined, and Aaron was born when I was a lion. They were raised in lionism. And I had pressure for a long time. I served in a lot of roles in the district. You got to step up to be governor. It's like, no, I'm not doing it till my kids are out of the house. I had these kids for a reason.
Mhm.
I'm not going to be out of their lives, and they're the priority right now. And yes, I worked around it, and Dale, I do conventions and all those different things, but that was the priority. And so it gave me a long stretch to really get to know lionism and understand what it is beyond just the borders of my own community. So it's been interesting. It's been an interesting piece. Our girls were both lions. They both have Leah with the babies, it's a little crazy. And so is not active. And Aaron's work life and life has really taken her away from it as well. But they always are there to support me when I need them. And if there's an event that we need help at, heck yeah, they're there to show up and volunteer.
That's incredible. That's so cool to see, and we love that. I did want to ask a little bit though. So, like you said, you've been a lion since 1993. So, take me back. What was it that brought you in?
So I actually thought I joined in late 1992, by the way. It took me until about 10 years ago at the longest that I figured out that they didn't put me in the system until like February of 93. So I got inducted into Lions in like November of 92, October or November of 92.
Awesome.
And, I was in outside ad sales at the time for the local newspaper group. One of my clients was a lion, and he asked me if I'd like to join. He invited me to a meeting. So back then, being invited to a meeting was normal.
Mhm.
Now it should not be normal. Okay, we'll talk about that later. But back then, getting invited to a meeting, and we were we're downtown Noon Lions Club. And so it's downtown Madison, Wisconsin. Madison is the state capital, the University of Wisconsin-Madison, the county seat, the city government. So we're in downtown, a bustling area right around the Capitol Square there. And we were at 90 plus members at the time. And our goal soon after I joined was to get up to 100. Back then, I think there was 4 of us that were women. Women were allowed back into Lions in 1987. And all 4 of us were pretty young. We're in our 20s and late 20s, early 30s. And none of us knew each other before this, but we became, especially 2 of us became very tight and are still great friends and close friends to this day on a
Amazing.
different level than just Lions. So I joined because someone asked me to. Someone that was a client who's become longtime friends since then with him and his entire family. But that's really what it was. And then I found out that what they did, and I'm like, oh my God, because I was raised to give back. My family was not wealthy. We're very poor family, but they would give you the shirt off your back. We fed, I can't tell you how many people at our table over the decades, because that's what you do. And so that's how I was raised. And so this was my opportunity to go back and do it in a more formal fashion, not just the, give some money here or there, or go to the food bank and do something every now and again. This was a bigger picture opportunity to give back.
That's awesome. Well, and I think it's important for people to know that, that type of an invitation, because it's far too often that we assume nowadays that, because I tell you the amount of times that I, as a president, would go ask people, I'm like, guys, we're giving out, like right now at the time, Lions were waiving the fees. We're like, come join Lions. And I'm like, get people in, invite them in. This is an amazing opportunity. And they would all say, oh yeah, I've asked, nobody's interested. But I think far too often we were finding this more that they assumed they didn't have the time and just didn't make that proper ask. Because if you invite someone,
ask. I mean, dude, exactly what you're just saying, the ask itself, instead of asking someone to join a freaking meeting, get them out there and do a project.
Yep.
If you've got young kids, create projects and allow families to come in and volunteer side by side with the Lions. Because the reality is everyone's looking for something. These young families, if you create opportunities that allow them to volunteer with their kids and help their kids see how important it is to do good, that changes everything. If you create an opportunity that fits for the scene, for early retirees, maybe you've got a project where you're reading eyeglass prescriptions to be able to put them out for mission trips. Maybe you've got some other project that is designed directly for those early retirees. Maybe it's a general committee, whatever it is, creating the right ask. It's not about this global thing anymore. Back in the day when I joined, it was, we serve meant we serve. And I got what that meant. Okay. Now I hear we serve and I think military. Now I hear it's like, and I love the military, and I think it's fantastic that that's how we look at that branding, that terminology. But when it comes to Lions, yeah, we serve, but what we really do is we volunteer. And it's not a global ask anymore. It's a conversation. Zach and Jodi are talking right now. Zach, what's important to you? You tell me what's important to you. And I say, you know what? Come with me. Let's create a project that helps you meet that goal. Let's look at how you can achieve who you want to be, or what's important to you, by tapping into our local Lions Club.
Yeah. Well, and that was something the other day on the last episode with Lion Daniel, I talked about, because I said, to me, the biggest thing that we need to change, and you kind of put the nail on that, was we're so used to our elevator speech of when people are like, what is it that Lions do? And you're like, oh, cool. And they start down the list. They're like, we're 1.4 million members strong.
Who cares?
And like, yeah, exactly. If it's not something that in any way resonates with you, then how are you going to get them in? I've completely changed how I do that. And I do exactly that, where they say, oh, cool, what is it the Lions do? And they said, I just tell them, Lions has such an amazing amount of different opportunities available, but I really want to know about what it is that matters most to you. What's important to you?
We help you achieve your goals. We help you make the difference you want to make, if we're doing it right. So here's the big challenges. There's so many of our clubs, and I've trained, full disclosure, I trained elevator speeches for decades to get people to do that. And I am so sorry. But also the world has changed a lot. And the way people volunteer has changed so much. And our messaging has to change. And that is exactly it. So there's a club in my local area in Wisconsin and this was a long time ago. They were an all men's club forever and ever and ever. They switched over to allow women into the club, which was awesome. But then all of a sudden they had these crazy growth spurts. It went from they were stable at 40 members ish, up to 45, down to 38 for the entire time I knew about them. They changed one thing. The one thing was this. It was how they were asking people to join. They did exactly what we're talking about right now. Instead of saying, come join us to do our annual steak feed, they said, hey, what's important to you? That made them go from 40 members to 80 to 80 plus members in a heartbeat. And this is a small community of 900 people.
Wow.
And the reality is, when you ask people that, and I use this one example all the time, there was a woman that joined the club that when they talked to her, what she wanted to do was bake cookies and teach kids how to bake, teenagers, middle school kids how to bake, and then go take those baked products and go to the local nursing home and serve those products, give the products to the members, but they played bingo with them. They interacted with them and the whole thing. This project costs less than a couple $100 a year. And look at the impact it's had. It's brought in new members. It's brought community together. It's brought generations together. This is what happens when we change how we ask. There is no way in heck that that club would have come up with this project on their own. It wasn't their modus operandi at all. They had their things and everything else. What it did was allow them to expand the way they volunteer and the impact they're having in a way they never would have imagined. And all it took was a couple $100 a year and asking the question on the front end. And this club, that's got to be 50. Oh God, by the way, Zach, when you get old, you don't remember how long ago it was anything happened. But that's at least 15 years ago that happened. And it's built they are the club in that community. They are the impact. They are where people go when they need something because they know the Lions will respond and give them the help they need. All because they changed how they ask.
That's incredible. But that's too, it's being open to a different way of doing things because there's been so much of that. I mean, as a sitting district governor, I see it far too often where people come in and you're like, this would be an awesome opportunity to do something different. And they say, well, we've never done that. Or we tried that 15 years ago and it didn't work 15 years ago. It's changing that mindset of that it didn't work then, but it might work now. There's a whole new avenue. There's a whole different type of person out there that might be able to make that work.
Well, and we have to encourage the old guard, our senior members, non-professional assessment of what's going on. So what happens when you allow change is, especially as you're an older member, when technology comes in that they're not comfortable with, when a new project comes in that they don't fully understand or aren't on board with, it's scary. It's scary to feel that you're going to be lost in the dust. You're going to become irrelevant, okay? Because as you age, there's a lot of things that you can't do anymore. So this is a real life fear factor for people and one that we have to acknowledge. And to help overcome that, we have to provide the opportunities for all generations and listen to that senior voice. The senior voice that says we tried this a long time ago is all good. And because then you can learn from what happened and why it didn't work. Because that's always what it's about. We tried it and it didn't work. So tell me what you did and what went wrong so we can build that in, right? But the secondary part of it is you've got to get that old guard on board with saying, it's okay. We're going to let it happen. We're going to let it try that happen. And when I was district governor, I don't know, it's been a long time. It's almost 10, my God, back to being old. It's almost 10 years ago. But when I was district governor, I was out at a club visit and I walked into just my normal district governor club visit and I had my presentation ready to go and they were doing their regular club business. And I saw something I didn't think I'd ever experienced in my entire life. This was a club that had recently done a movie in the park free event. Small community. They went to the local town square park and they put up and they did a Disney movie. They gave out they either sold hot dogs and lemonade or waters or whatever it is, let people bring in their own stuff. And they brought the community together for this movie in the park. And it was a kids movie of some sort. So it was for young families. And there had been a lot of resistance, come to find out, in the club from the senior members. Somehow, and I happened to be at the meeting after this event, actually occurred. So somehow this younger guard convinced the older guard to let them try this because it wasn't going to cost that much. Whatever it was, they convinced them. I was there for the after meeting. So the club president on the agenda was the how did it go, give the recap of the event and blah, 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 blah. The recap gets done and a senior member of the club, an older gentleman, stands up and he says this. He says, I was completely against this project, as you know. I came to the project in order to point my finger at you all at that moment and say, I told you so, I told you so, I told you so. He said, I'm eating my words right now. He said, that is one of the best projects we've ever done. The entire community came together. Everyone was having a great time. Thank you for helping change my mind.
Wow. That's pretty impactful.
That, my friends, is what it takes.
Yep.
To turn, because it's hard. It's hard when you think you're getting left behind or are afraid of being left behind. It's hard to look at, I have invested so much into this Lions Club. This is who we are. And in a lot of cases, these clubs haven't changed in decades. So now we're all ingrained and just built into this at a level of the ownership, because it didn't naturally transition as it should if you have a changing and growing with all generations joining your club. So overcoming that first hurdle, making sure whatever you have to do to get there is really so important, because once you can show proof, and it doesn't always turn out perfect, let's be honest. Things are going to fail. We learn by failure. You can best laid plans and all heck will break loose and it's a rain day or something. Who knows, whatever the event is. But the reality is helping our senior members, our more seasoned members, see their club being revitalized. Because here's the other side of it. None of us wants to see our clubs die. They're our senior generation. And they've been struggling and beating their heads against the wall for a long time trying to figure out how to make it happen. And if you just have a one-on-one conversation, say, listen, your input is so important. But when you say things like this, it shuts down the opportunity in the conversation and it scares people away. Can you, first of all, I'm happy. Let's talk about these things. If you have these concerns, let's talk about them one-on-one or in a small group. And let's talk through them. So you're listening and hearing their voices and you're hearing what they need, but you also then are not in the squashing everyone. Some of you see my marshmallow thing. We all come into Lions as a pristine marshmallow. And I don't have one in my hand right now, but that pristine marshmallow is beautiful, right? It's clean. It's simple. It's all good. And the first time someone says no to you or says, we did that 10 years ago and it didn't work or whatever it is, you get squashed. And you think about squashing a marshmallow, it comes back almost 100%, but not quite 100% with that first squash. And with subsequent squashes, you turn into a giant gooey mess and you walk away. Not because you don't care, which is what a lot of the senior members say, but because you've been squashed and you're feeling underappreciated. And it's so important that we help our senior members understand the impact of the words they use. It's not that we don't want to hear their advice, hear what they have to say. It's the fact of the way they say it and how they turn new members, and it's not even just young members, it's anyone that tries to bring a change to a club in a lot of cases, how it turns them off and makes them feel not welcome, not wanted. And we're already an organization that has dues, for God's sakes, okay? So now you're asking me to pay to be abused and bullied at a meeting? Come on, I'm going to go find someplace else to spend my time, talent, and resources.
Yep. Nope. And that's what I would say, in my opinion, the biggest problem that we have. That is definitely something that by a lot of the things that we've talked about, a lot of those changes can effectively, hopefully, revitalize an organization that is just absolutely phenomenal to be a part of. But you make those small tweaks, and hopefully it's something that we can continue to grow off of.
Well, and the reality is that some of these clubs just can't change. It's not going to. It's not going to happen, and that's okay. Yep. I mean, it's okay. It truly is okay. And this is I'm a person who's been out promoting new club development for a long, long time. I will say very honestly, up until a couple years ago, I didn't believe starting new clubs was the answer. I believed supporting and helping the existing clubs evolve to what they need to be for today's volunteers was the answer. What I now know is it's a combination of all of the above. Because the reality is some of the existing clubs that have the potential and the ability to make that change, to allow those new voices to come in and help them move forward. Other clubs just don't. So those clubs that don't have to open up enough to say, listen, we can't, but we will support and help build this new club through a branch. We will be their sponsoring club to give them that grounding in the community. And it's not going to be a club that looks like this existing club. So many clubs are like, well, why don't you just get me new members? Well, dude, if they wanted to join your club, you've been here for 50 years, they would have joined your club. Something's not working for them.
Yep.
So find a club that works for this new generation and work together because the more Lions we have out there, the more it raises all of us up. And
Agreed.
That's the key.
Yeah. Well, that's something that even in my district we're currently doing right now is we have one of those clubs that's a traditional old-fashioned club, old traditional values, that it works in their community. They're taking care of their community. They're doing what they need to be done. And so we are actually, and they've even given the blessing of they'll sponsor a new club coming in so that next generation can come in. Part of the problem we run into though is as we promote it, so many say, well, there's already a Lions Club there. Why are we doing this? And so we're trying to explain to them, that the phenomenal work that current Lions Club does, but that there's so many more opportunities. And because it's a relatively big area that it can support a secondary club that's welcoming in all walks of life. And so that's been something we're pretty proud of.
Yeah, that's fantastic, Zach, because that's exactly the mindset. And it's also about, the current club meets at certain time and they have certain projects already in place and they're already maxed out, or they're going to have to give up something to add something new in. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe that club doesn't work for me. Maybe it's either
Mm-hmm.
the time, maybe I don't care about those projects. That's not my thing. It's about creating an opportunity that meets the needs of these individuals in your community and bringing that group together to then those individual talents come together to do more. And it might be a specialty club that's focused on a specific, maybe it's a mental health thing. Maybe it's a first responders club, or there's some quilters clubs out there that's what they do. They have quilting, So
Mm-hmm.
it's about finding the right piece to tap into an audience that's never going to join that traditional Lions Club,
No,
and then
that's
promoting it as such. You should be cross-promoting all the clubs in your area at the same time, because here's the deal, especially if you're in an area that's population dense, meaning there's a lot of population there and there's a lot of clubs. Every club has a different personality. And I could drive 10 miles and go over here and find a club that's going to have a better fit for me than the one in my own local community, because I don't care about what they're doing there necessarily, or it's not my thing.
yep.
Finding that, creating that opportunity to give more than one option allows more people to get out and volunteer and make a difference. And that's what it really comes down to.
Yeah, that's incredible. I love the way you said that. And I do want to say, so listeners, thank you so much for listening to this episode. There is going to be a second episode with Lion Jodi Burmester. We're so excited. It's been just an absolutely phenomenal episode, and we hope that you will listen in to the next one, because there's going to be more. We're going to go more in depth. There's a few things that I'm really looking forward to in this next episode, and I really hope that you guys will listen and tune in, because Behind the Roar is just it's everything, and we're having these amazing conversations with another amazing Lion and Lion Jodi. Lion Jodi, thank you.
Well, Zach, thank you so much. Thanks for doing this, man. This is such a needed and such a cool opportunity, and you have the skills and the ability to make it happen. So thank you for all you're doing and putting in, and because it is, like I said at the beginning of this, is not a small task to keep a podcast going, and the investment in the technology and then the ongoing everyday work that has to go into it is huge. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Down, 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 down.